The time is 11:11 hours. Throughout the morning of June 16, 1944, the normally serene Vale of Almont has played host to an unlikely encounter between American and German forces. This unique episode has evolved from one of initial mystery and causality to that of full-fledged, unadulterated combat. Like the final page of a dime store novel, the confrontation's outcome is laced with drama, yet entirely predictable. Nevertheless, in these waning moments, both combatants remain undaunted in their commitment to duty and mission as they summon their last reserves of energy for one final test of courage and fortitude. Galvanized by the sudden appearance of a single Sherman tank on the rear flank of Kampfgruppe Eckel, Company B presses home its final attack on the hamlet. For Lieutenant Spitzer, this single event alters the complexion of the battle irrevocably.
Meine Mannschaft und ich wurden vom Festsetzen des Schadens an unserem Fahrzeug so völlig in Anspruch genommen, dass wir scheiterten, die südliche Annäherung der Zermatt-Zisterne über das versunkene Tal zu entdecken.
My crew and I were so preoccupied with assessing the damage to our vehicle that we failed to detect the Sherman tank's southerly approach across the sunken vale. I was stunned by its presence. I didn't think this possible, since the terrain behind us was a virtual quagmire. Before we could react, the number 2 Stug was immobilized by cannon fire. We rotated our vehicle to engage this threat from what would have been an advantageous enfilade position. A single point-blank broadside into the tank would have ended the crisis as quickly as it arose. Unfortunately, our left track dug deep into the soggy ground as we turned, halting our maneuver before we could bring our main gun in line with the target. My only recourse was to exit the muddy patch and attempt to re-engage. Before we could complete this action, however, the Americans had finished off our companion Stug and refocused their undivided attention on us. This was my last recollection of battle, prior to blacking out.
Das war meine letzte Erinnerung des Kampfs vor dem Verdunkeln.
Capitalizing on this good fortune, Lieutenant Hendrick's response is uncompromising and swift. 2 successive armor-piercing rounds are pumped into the defenseless Stug as it leaves the mire, setting it ablaze and bringing it to a standstill. In dispatching these intractable assault guns, the U.S. tankers have not only accomplished their mission goal, they've also succeeded in eradicating the last obstacle to victory. Having retreated to the rear echelon buildings only moments earlier, the bulk of Lieutenant Eckel's command squad witnesses the onset of the armor duel. Understanding that their very survival rests in defeating this lone Sherman, they boldly redeploy towards the southeast barn. However, the clash of metal is one-sided and far too brief. Their dash is detected by the U.S. tank, which brings its ample firepower to bear. Possessing one of only 2 available Panzerfaust anti-tank weapons, the right flank squad also recognizes the menace posed by the Sherman and opt to break concealment. Upon exiting the building, they come under heavy machine gun fire from Lieutenant Waters Stewart, which fells 2 men. After quickly locating the threat to their rear, the soldiers displace to join the defense. In all the chaos, however, they fail to realize that the Panzerfaust has been left behind, its handler a casualty. Such an oversight is a critical lapse in combat discipline with unforgiving ramifications. Observing the battlefield from Hill 146, Captain Dorn is heartened by the spectacle.
With the arrival of the Sherman tank, the situation within the Vale became more fluid than at any other time during the entire battle. Events were unfolding at a frantic pace. Not only was 2nd Platoon in the process of staging for their imminent assault on the west flank from the southwest crop field, 3rd Platoon had entered the northeast crop field and was preparing to assail the east flank. All the while, the men of 1st Platoon were pouring suppressive fire into the hamlet from the south irrigation ditch. Although the reactive fire coming from en masse had been substantially curtailed, a direct assault was still proving to be a hazardous proposition. It was about this time that Lieutenant Hendricks communicated the destruction of our two primary antagonists. The German assault guns had been purged from the battlefield. An indescribable sense of relief washed over me, followed by a gung-ho-like euphoria. In direct contradiction with military protocol, I elected to leave the hill and enter the vale. At that moment in time, nothing on earth was going to keep me from being with my men during these final minutes of combat.
Sensing that the Americans are on the verge of commencing an assault towards the now undefended collection barn, Lieutenant Eckel and the last two defenders of the CP exit the building in an effort to establish a more contiguous defensive position at the stone wall. In the process, however, irony intervenes. The soldier carrying the Panzerfaust meets the same fate as that of his counterpart in the right flank squad. He is cut down by GI lead only moments after leaving the structure. On the other side of the hamlet, the promenade of exposed German soldiers before Lieutenant Hendricks' tank resembles something akin to trundling paper ducks in a carnival shooting gallery. Although they managed to intercept a pair of troops attempting to relocate to the command post to retrieve Eckel's Panzerfaust, the enemy's desire to outflank their tank for a direct assault with small arms and grenades is quite apparent. As such, Hendricks makes a spur-of-the-moment decision to intercede this activity. He will rely upon the prohibitive shock value of a quick advance to thwart their plan. The vehicle commander thus rises from his turret to man the 50 cal as the tank rolls forward with all guns blazing. As they approach the inert number 2 Stug, its ruptured fuel tank catches fire and ignites. Inspired by Hendricks' valiant maneuver, Lieutenant Waters also throws caution to the wind. His steward leaves the cover of the vehicle bridge to skirt the eastern extent of the irrigation ditch. Their destination? Albeit. Nearby, in the adjacent crop field, the men of 3rd Platoon simultaneously bound forward through the maturated grain. To their relief, they are unmolested by defensive fire, due to Comp Group Eckel's right flank defenders having completely vacated their forward position. Likewise, the last remaining German scout has left the vicinity, fleeing for his life across open ground. Sharing the same fate of that of his comrade only minutes earlier, his flight is cut short by a burst of machine gun fire from Waters' rambling Stuart. The eastern approach now clear, the first GIs of Company B finally reach the outskirts of Albeit. Ironically enough, it is the battered men of 3rd Platoon. The vice-like assault of the American tanks proves to be very effective. One of the two enemy grenadiers skirting the southeast barn in an effort to get behind the Sherman is spotted while en route. He is summarily dispatched by the ranging Stuart. Concurrently, Lieutenant Hendricks concludes his daring offensive maneuver.
Closing in on the hamlet without infantry support was risky business. There was a chance that the nearby buildings would be occupied by hidden soldiers waiting to greet us with anti-tank weapons. This was a calculated risk that I had to take, because the shock value of an unexpected attack might demoralize an unprepared foe. Thankfully, this improvised tactic did the trick. Our quick assault was a complete surprise. Most of the enemy infantry was still exposed and vulnerable. They simply gave up the fight on the spot. You've really got to hand it to the Sherman tank. With all those noisy guns, its power of intimidation cannot be underestimated.
Having invoked the surrender of all but a handful of enemy combatants, the Sherman maintains vigil behind Albeit, unleashing a spontaneous torrent of lead at any unauthorized activity. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Waters Stuart continues its solitary expedition across the Vale floor, deliberately bypassing the hamlet. Though audacious in its intent, this excursion proves fruitful. The advancing tank bearing down on him, the 2nd German Assault Grenadier rises from cover to declare his capitulation. With these two events, the day's action is, for all intents and purposes, complete. However, Lieutenant Eckel and a single rifleman remain defiant. Despite the consolidated gunfire emanating from Point Andy, the crop field, and the south irrigation ditch, the lone pair of Germans pursue the fight. Suddenly, two fearless 2nd Platoon GIs race across open ground, determined to flank the compound by way of the collection barn. Braving the storm of suppressive fire, the rifleman takes aim. In this singular moment, the unwavering German and his target become the final two casualties of this unorthodox and grueling slugfest. Now the lone defender of his own impromptu battle group, Lieutenant Eckel seeks the cover of the stone wall and weighs his final options.
Unbekannt mir zur Zeit war kein einziger meiner Kameraden noch im Kampf.
Unbeknownst to me at the time, not a single one of my comrades was still in the fight. Over my shoulder, I spotted several GIs approaching down the dirt road. I departed the stone wall and ran to the rear echelon buildings. Hoping against hope to still make an escape, I peered around the corner of an edifice to survey the situation. That's when I got my first glimpse of the Sherman tank that had spoiled our day. Just then, I could hear the Stuart roll into the compound behind me. With my entire troop apparently captured or deceased, all the ambition drained from my body in a single moment, including any thoughts of employing the nearby Panzerfaust.
Physically and mentally drained, Eckel collapses to the ground in a symbolic gesture of concession, while, behind the farmstead, the severely wounded Spitzer drags himself from his burning hulk and into captivity. The sun now high overhead, the morning is spent, as are the battle's participants. The time is 11:13 hours. The Battle of Almont concluded. The Vale returns to its natural state. The ambient strains of nature once again replace the din of gunfire and explosive. With the end of hostilities, both combatants pause to take stock of what they have won, as well as what they have lost. For the Germans of Kampfgruppe Eckel, the battle and the war is now over. A mere 15 men out of a total force of 115 survive without major injury. 60 Wehrmacht soldiers pay the ultimate price in their service to Greater Germany. Their mission? A success, at least in part. Despite their grievous losses, the Allied effort in the area was disrupted. Men and materiel were diverted from the battlefront, and numerous casualties inflicted on the enemy in two separate encounters. As for the Americans, their mission ends in tactical victory. The nuisance of enemy activity inside the U.S. command and control zone has been eliminated. Of the 222 men deployed to the battle, 28 give their final measure of devotion to duty, honor, and country. Having secured the hamlet and liberated the captured survivors of the artillery convoy, the men of Company B exit the scene for calmer pastures and a place where they can bind their wounds, service their gear, tell their stories, rest, recuperate, and prepare for the next dawn. Because, as in all wars, tomorrow is another day, and with the new dawn comes yet another battle to be met. The Battle of Laval d'Almont now passes into history, but its tale can be told because of his story and his story within this anecdotal realm that is Tales of Virtual Combat.